Hey everybody, welcome to Algebra 1-2, Section 12-4, Box and Whisker plots. So by the end of this lesson, you should be able to find the following values: the minimum, the first quartile, the median, which is also known as the second quartile, the third quartile, and the maximum. You also need to be able to find the interquartile range and construct a box and whiskers plot. So first off, what is a box and whiskers plot? Well, here's what it looks like. It looks like a box with some whiskers. So here we have the box, and somewhere inside the box there's a vertical line. And then we've got a point at the end with a line drawn to it, which supposedly looks like one whisker. And then on the other side we have another dot with a line drawn to it, which makes up another whisker. So hence the term box and whiskers plot. So apparently my dog doesn't like hearing me talk about whiskers. So what you need to know about this box and whiskers plot is that there's 5 data points. Obviously where this dot is and where the other dot is. But the beginning of the box, where this vertical line is, and where this other end of the box is, those are our 5 data points represented by a box and whiskers plot. So those 5 data points are the minimum, the very lowest value in your data. And then obviously the other one's going to be the maximum, the very highest value in your data. The line in the middle of the box is called the median, okay, which you should be familiar with. That's where you line up all the numbers in order, and then you just find the very middle number. And then this beginning of the box is the first quartile, and the middle of the end of the other box is the third quartile. And like I said before, the median can also be called the second quartile. So what that means is if you split up all the data, 1/4 of your data is going to be on this whisker. 1/4 of your data is going to be inside this left-hand side of the box. 1/4 of your data will be inside the right-hand side of the box. And 1/4 of your data will be in the outside whisker. Okay? So let's talk about how to find the first and third quartile. So let's say I gave a quiz, and these were the quiz scores. So we're going to find all 5 data points: the minimum, the first quartile, the median, the third quartile, and the maximum. So for the purpose of reference, I'm just going to go ahead and abbreviate those. So the min, Q1, med for median, Q3, and max. So obviously the 2 easy ones to find are the minimum and the maximum. Okay, and let me just say this. You got to put all the stuff in order first. For any of this to work, you got to put it in order. So let's go ahead and figure out the minimum here. Since it's already in order, the minimum is just going to be 12. The maximum is going to be 25. And then let's do our little trick to find the median. Let's go ahead and cross off the first and last, and then the next first and last, next first, and keep on going until we get to a single number, 22. Okay, so 22, that is going to be our median. Now, the nice thing about finding the median is what we've done is we have just split up the data into 2 halves. We have a lower half and we have an upper half. And the way we find the first quartile is we take the lower half and then we just find the median for that set of data. Okay, so if the median was a single number, we don't include that. Okay, we include all the numbers less than that in our lower half. Which, by the way, the first quartile is also called the lower quartile, if you ever see that. So I'm going to take this 12, 18, 20, 21, and 21, and I'm going to use that data and find the median of just this half. So I'll do the same trick where I cross out the first and the last, and the next first and the last, and that number in the middle, that's my first quartile. So I'll put that for Q1. And then I just do the exact same thing for the other side. So I've got 5 numbers there. Let's go ahead and cross off the first and the last, the next first and last, and there we go. There's my third quartile, 23. So I'll plug that in for Q3, and I have all 5 data points. Now let me just say that this example given to you was best case scenario. And in the course of this video, I'm going to give you 4 different examples which are not best case scenario. Okay? So we've successfully found all 5 data points. And now what we're going to do is we're going to plot those on a number line. So let's make room for number line. Let's put the number line. Oh, before we do that, let's talk about something called interquartile range. Now, if we take away the word interquartile and just talk about the range, we know that's the biggest number minus our smallest number. So if we were talking about the range for this data, we would take 25 and minus 12, and we would get 13. Okay, so that's our range. When we talk about the interquartile range, very similar idea. We take the third quartile and subtract the first quartile. So the bigger quartile minus the smaller quartile. And we would find in this case that our interquartile range is 3. 23 minus 20. Okay? So here we have our number line. Let's go ahead and plot all 5 points on that number line. And here's how you make the box and whisker plots. So for the Q1, which is 20, and the Q3, which is 23, we put a box on it. Okay? So just that simple. Make a box that connects the first quartile to the third quartile. Then we're going to go ahead and put a vertical line where that median is. And there's our box. Now, for the whiskers, here's all you got to do now. Is just draw those lines. And that's it. That's our box and whisker plot. Okay? That's all you have to do is plot those 5 pieces of data, put a box around the quartiles, and then draw the whiskers to the maximum and the minimum. Okay? So again, since we were talking about quiz scores, this tells me that a quarter of my students scored in between 12 and 20. A quarter of my students scored in between 20 and 22. A quarter of my students scored in between 22 and 23. And a quarter of my students scored between 23 and 25. Okay? So if this was out of 25 points, that tells me that a quarter of my students got less than a 20. If only a quarter of my students did less than 20, hey, I'm feeling pretty good about that. And then the rest of my students did from 20 to 25, I'd say this is a pretty good quiz score. But one of the benefits of box and whisker plots, it shows the distribution. So a pretty wide range between that lowest whisker, and then very dense amongst the other regions. So the first quartile, third quartile, and the last whisker. So that tells me that a lot of students did really well on this quiz. Okay, so like I said, this was the best case scenario for finding all 5 data points. I'm going to do a couple more examples showing you not best case scenario. And by the way, let's talk about that interquartile range. We said it was 3, and you can clearly see that on the number line, is that my interquartile range goes from 20 to 23. So that tells me that the middle half of my students scored in between 20 and 23. So let's take a look at another example. All right, let's go ahead and figure out all 5 of these data points. Let's do the easy ones first. The minimum is 88. The maximum is 100. And then let's do our little median trick. So I cross off numbers one at a time. And in this case, there's not a single number in the middle. In this case, there's 2 numbers in the middle. And so what I have to do is I have to add those up and divide by 2. And when I do that, I get 93 as my median. So I'll go ahead and plug that in. And now here's the thing. That 93, that's right in between the 92 and the 94. So when I go ahead and find out my lower quartile and my upper quartile, that 92, even though I use that 92 to help me find the median, that 92 is still included in this lower half. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the 88, 88, 89, 91, and 92, use those 5 data points, and figure out the first quartile. So when I do that, it ends up being 89. So there is my Q1. And just like before, that 92 got used in the lower half. This 94 is going to be used in the upper half. So then I can go ahead and cross off the numbers on either side and find that 99 is in the middle. So that makes Q3 99. Now let's go ahead and do the same thing. Let's get it on a number line. Let's make some room for the number line. Oh, yeah, let's talk about our interquartile range. So in this case, I will do 99 minus 89, and our interquartile range is 10. So if I go and plot these, There's all those 5 data points plotted. Put a box between Q1 and Q3. So there's my box. Make my vertical line on the median, and then draw them whiskers. There we go. There's my box and whiskers plot. Okay, 2 more examples to go. And yes, it's going to be a little bit trickier each time. All right, so let's go ahead and try this. Let's find those 5 data points. So the easy ones, the minimum and the maximum. The minimum is 64, maximum is 81. Go ahead and cross off some numbers, and I find that 71 is the median. Now, because that single number is the median, I'm not going to use that for either my lower or my upper half. So when I do my lower half, I'm only going to use those 4 data points, the 64, 65, 68, and 70. So when I go and I cross off the first and the last, that leaves 2 numbers in the middle. And so just like with finding the median, we have to add those up and divide by 2, which gives me 66.5. Then I'll do the same thing for the upper half. I'll go ahead and cross off the 2 on the end and find the 2 in the middle, and then add those up and divide by 2, and I get 77.5. So this is what I meant when the first example was best case scenario, because everything, there was a single number in the middle. However, it's not always that case, and I always want to show you every single possible example. So there we go. We have all 5 data points. And so I don't think I'm going to do the box and whisker plots anymore, just to kind of respect your time. I think that's the easy part, is you plot all 5, draw your box, draw your line, and draw them whiskers. So we found all 5 data points. Let's go ahead and move on. Last example. And this example is going to be worst possible scenario. We're going to have to do that thing where we add up the 2 numbers and divide by 2 a lot. So let's go ahead and find these 5 data points. Our minimum is obviously 1. Our maximum is 12. Let's start crossing off numbers. And I get 2 numbers in the middle, 5 and 6. So then I will add those up, divide by 2, and I get 5.5. Now, because there wasn't a single number in the middle, I'm going to use that 5 in the lower half and use the 6 in the upper half. Okay, since that median, that 5.5 is right in the middle there, the 5 goes with the lower, the 6 goes with the half. Right? The 6 goes with the upper. Okay, so now when I start crossing off numbers with my lower half, I cross those off and I get 3 and 4 in the middle. So then I'll have to go ahead and add those up, divide by 2, and I get 3.5 for my Q1. Then I'll do the same thing for the upper half. Cross off those numbers, and I get 8 and 9 in the middle. Add those up and divide by 2, and I get 8.5. Okay? And then again, if the instructions ask you to do the box and whisker plots, plot all 5 points, put a box around the Q1 and Q3, put your line on the median, and draw the whiskers. Okay? Real quick, if we wanted to find the interquartile range on this one, it would be 8.5 minus 3.5, which would just be 5. Okay? Hopefully, if you've never seen box and whisker plots before, hopefully this was a pretty reasonable explanation, and it makes a lot of sense now. If you've seen it before, then hopefully this was a breeze. If you guys have any questions, please let me know, either via email or ask me in class. Hope you guys are doing well. Hope you have a good day, and I'll see you real soon.